It reconnects us to the natural world. We forget that we are animals. We forget that we belong amongst trees, not in concrete blocks. We box ourselves in, we feel harassed, we feel worried. When you go out into a wide green space with the sky full above you, it reconnects you. King David I gave the land to the south of the city, a broad swathe of woodland, with the idea that it would serve as the common good. Over the centuries, of course, the land was used for the basic purposes like collecting firewood and taking your animals out to feed and foraging. But of course it would also be used for pleasure. If you were finding yourself cooped up with your family and wanted to get out with a girlfriend, great, ideal place to go. And of course it was also a source of immensely good health, which people must have known. Worst, the most terrifying disease which hit the whole of Europe in the 14th, 16th and 17th centuries was the Black Death, the plague. And this hit Edinburgh on a regular basis, so that by the time of the 16th century, when we get to understand and hear more of it, they had already worked out that the contagion, the disease, was being brought in by the ships which came from outside or by invading armies, and that cloth in the ships could in itself hold that contagion for a day or two. But it would hit people within a few days of handling the material, and they would die, very likely, within 4 to 7 days. It was an ugly disease, and it was painful and very distressing. And about a third of the population was apt to be wiped out at a time. The city realized that it wasn't just enough to clean the streets. You had to shift the people who were diseased out of the city into quarantine. And they used the site that's now the Astley Ainsley site as a hospital, and they built a chapel to St. Roch, who was the saint who was specially concerned with the plague and saving people from the plague, so that the people who were on the site, the sick and their friends who'd come with them, could have somewhere to pray and to have some kind of solace for their sense of grief and for their sins. There are very few stories which survive of people's experience in the 16th century, but there is one case which we know of because it was a court case, a legal case, of a man called David Dewley. His wife fell sick. They were both tailors, and she was probably handling infected material, and he concealed it. He did not send his wife out of the city to quarantine. He wanted to keep her with him and with the children, and presumably he was very afraid. And then he went to St. Giles Cathedral to pray, but after that it was discovered that his wife was sick, and of course he could have infected the entire city by going to the cathedral. The legal judgment was that he should be hanged for this as for a crime, and he was indeed hanged in front of his own house, but they were using an old rope, and the rope broke. So the city then decided that God didn't want him to die, and they exiled the man and his children, quite possibly out to the Astley Ainsley site.